Well, welcome everybody. And as usual, we're going to start off with our nutritionist who's going to talk to us about food, mood swings and craving in relation to women's health. Now, if I can confess, I know that I love to eat food and I tend to eat the wrong foods at the wrong time. But our doctor, I'm going to give her full introduction. Dr. Alice Ojwang is a registered nutritionist and registered dietitian. She serves as a lifestyle activist to prevent chronic disease and improve quality of life by creating awareness of diet and health in print and television. During her profession, straddling up to 20 years as a nutrition and dietetic professional, she has been instrumental in shaping the direction and nutrition and dietetics professions in Kenya and beyond. I just feel very, very honoured to have her with us today. And thank you, Dr. Ojwang, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm happy to be here to talk about food. You know, all of us eat every day. We eat something, but I have a quiz or two before we carry on. How many of us in this room skip breakfast? Just raise your hand. I think I'll see it on the screen. Very good. I've seen two people. The others might be, I can't see what the others are saying, but yeah, okay. And how many of you crave for some food? And what food is this you crave for? Just type it on the chat box. Do you crave for sugar, salt, and fat? And how often do you crave for this? Is it every day? Is it once a week? Is it once in a while? But cravings cannot be once in a while. So what I'm going to do is I'll just, my talk is about food, mood swings, and cravings. And I'm going to go through, I'll introduce what mood is, what cravings is, and then we'll talk about the consequences and our habits that actually get us, impact mood and cravings. And then we'll talk about the solution, or we will have question session, and then I will give you a take-home message. So I can see somebody says, I crave chocolate every now and again. So I've been practicing nutrition and dietetics for 20 years. And a lot of times I have patients who come and they're like, I have mood swings, I'm always tired, I am fatigued. And then you find out what is it that you do that actually gets you to be moody and to have cravings. And so I have patients who come, they say they're tired, they're fatigued, and they're moody. And so when you start to find out what their diet history is, you find the habits, which I'm going to talk about shortly, that actually make them be moody and also increase their cravings. So what is, of course, a mood? A mood is a state of happiness or a state of sadness. And cravings is a strong desire to eat something. So all these things are related with food. When you eat healthy, you neither have cravings, neither do you have mood swings in relation to food. And when you wake up in the morning, you need more food and your brain needs glucose for energy. Your brain cannot work without glucose, and this glucose comes from food. So when you skip breakfast, it means that your brain does not have sufficient energy. So what it does, it releases a stress hormone called glucagon that provides brain energy for a while before you eat. And so when you're using glucagon instead of glucose, you tend to crave. So maybe when you miss breakfast, 10, 11, 12, you start craving, you want something sweet. And so when you take something sweet, it's going to make you feel happy, or you feel you have this reward system where you're feeling good. But unfortunately, this because you've taken sugar and not something that balances your energy and lasts a longer time, it reduces. The blood sugar goes down and you're back to the same level. You're feeling low, you're feeling tired, and you need a boost of that fatigue. So what happens? You again take something to eat, which could be sugar again. And so then you have a high and then you have a low. And that process keeps going and keeps going. And that's very dangerous in the long run, because what happens is when you take something sweet to increase when you crave and you take something sweet, it's because you want glucose. Yes, and when you get that, yes, the body is going to recognize that, yes, I've been rewarded, I've gotten my glucose. And so it becomes a form of addiction that is forming slowly and slowly. And so you'll find that you actually get addicted to sugar. Anytime you have not eaten something, you want sugar and you want sugar. And so every time you keep taking sugar, that increases to, and that becomes another problem. You increase your risk of diabetes and related risk factors, because when you eat food, this food becomes sugar, and the sugar is absorbed into your cells by the help of insulin. Your cells are tightly closed, but your insulin actually helps the sugar to get into the cell. And so on a normal day, when you eat a normal meal, it happens. When you eat a bad meal, it happens. But the danger of that is every time you're craving for sugar, and the craving is always for sugar. Sometimes it's for something fatty and something salty, but we're going to come to that shortly. So anytime you crave for sugar, what it does, it increases what we call your insulin response index. Because when you eat, the insulin is produced to absorb the food. But when you keep taking sugar and you're craving, your insulin response index becomes very, very high. That means the body is overproducing insulin so that it can accommodate this sugar that you keep taking. And what happens with that, in the long run, you have a high risk of diabetes. And of course, when you keep doing that, also your weight increases. And so there is the risk of obesity. And remember, I've only talked about skipping breakfast. We haven't talked about other things yet. So that's the major cause of mood swings and cravings, skipping breakfast. And this leads to, eventually, if this habit is not changed, it leads to serious health problems. It also leads to fatigue and brain fog. And so the effect on your work is on students is you're not productive. If you're somebody who works, you're actually not working effectively and efficiently. You might think that, yes, at the end of the day, you've gone to work 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., you have finished work, but you're probably working at your 30, 40% than somebody who actually had their meal. The other thing that also increases your risk of craving and moods is dehydration. Did you know that if you don't take water, you crave more and you're more likely to take a sugar and what we call high palatable foods, which is fat and salt. So if you don't take enough water, studies have shown that when you're dehydrated, your water intake is not. First of all, your hunger signals are faster. Like it tells you you're hungry. Your hunger signals lets you know that you're hungry, but you're actually not hungry. So then you tend to eat and also crave and be a picky eater, which is actually dangerous in the long run. So dehydration is a major cause of cravings. And of course, we can say that so many other things. The other things that also increase your cravings is now your hormonal balances. We have what we call the leptin hormone, and we have ghrelin hormone. The leptin hormone is a hormone that's released by your fat cells, and it just wants the body that I have enough, there's enough fat, there's enough satiety, and I'm all right, I don't need food. But then you have the ghrelin hormone, which always tells your body that this is a hormone that is released when you're hungry. So when there is an imbalance between these two hormones, then you tend to crave. But you know, the problem here is actually just your eating habits. So that's the problem. And of course, we've talked about insulin levels. The other hormone that also affects our craving is cortisol. Cortisol is released when you're under a lot of stress. you can go through a lot of stresses, emotional stress, relationship-related stress, work-related stress. But when the stress is actually intense, then you increase your cortisol hormones increase, and so this increases your craving. So you'll find that I've managed patients who, there's some when they're going through stress, then they tend to eat a lot. They crave for food, they crave for different types of food. So they're eating sugar, they're eating too much, and they tend to increase. And so when this kind of a client comes and say that I want weight loss, then I have to find out what is the problem. And once you find out what the problem is, it's never about weight loss, it's actually about emotional state. And some people actually, on the other side, when they're going through stress, they still produce excess levels of cortisol, but they actually do not eat. And so they become very, very thin and emaciated. So what am I trying to say? Really, in short, food is important for our health. Why do we eat? We eat for bodybuilding purposes. We eat for energy. We eat to repair our cells. We eat for to feel good and all that. But if we don't eat healthy, we're definitely going to impact our health and in the long run. So your mood swings are related to bad healthy habits. For example, if you take very high levels of sugar, and maybe this is a time I want to show a slide, sorry, just one slide to show how easy it is, very possible to take a lot of sugar in one sitting. Okay, there we go. So I'm just going to show this slide here. It's very easy to take a lot of sugar. So if you take a lot of carbohydrates in your diet, we have a problem. So this is an expression by Dr. David Unwin, he's based in the UK, and you can look out for some of these expressions. And you can see this is what most people think is a healthy breakfast. And so when you take cornflakes, just about 30 grams, that's going to give you 8.4 teaspoons of sugar. Then when you take milk, about 125 ml is going to give you 1 teaspoon of sugar. Brown toast, 30 grams, is going to give you 3 teaspoons of sugar. And pure juice, which is to about just 200 ml, is going to give you 8.62 teaspoons of sugar. So when we look at this is actually 21 teaspoons of sugar in one sitting. So if you don't eat healthy and you eat a high amount of carbohydrates in one meal, when you finish that meal, you feel, okay, I'm good, I'm happy, everything is going on. But all this sugar is just going to drop at some point, and you're going to start feeling lethargic. You start going to feel tired, and you get hungry. You feel very hungry, and we know a hungry person is an angry person. You're actually very irritable, and you don't make good company, and you don't make good company, and you're not a good team player. So this is just one way. If you don't eat healthy, that's what you get. Also, a lot of times we tend to eat what we call highly palatable foods. Remember what I said, if your leptin hormone and ghrelin hormone are not in balance, you start getting cravings. But just means you don't have food, you've not eaten. But when you don't pay attention to what you eat, then you're going to crave for something. Your body just needs some sugar from food, which is fine, because all the food we eat takes sugar. But now you're going to make this craving, this imbalance, you're going to make it a piece of chocolate, you're going to make it, KFC, sorry to say that, you're going to make it some chips, something fatty. So these are called high palatable foods: sugar, salt, and fat. And this, when you do this often, we said it's actually a form of addiction. And studies have shown that when they looked at some brain activity, or people who have addiction for crack, cocaine, and all those hard drugs, it also showed the same patterns were seen on people who have cravings for sugar, salt, and fat. In fact, a rat study that was done, that they gave them sugar, they gave them cocaine, and then they gave them saccharin. Saccharin is a sweetener, which is made of glucose and fructose. So, but the rats were more likely to eat the saccharin because it gave them a higher feeling of reward. And this reward system is called the reward pathway. It works, it's just something like, it is satisfaction. Like if you're thirsty, you drink water, you get your brain, the reward pathway is evoked. If you're hungry and you eat, it's evoked. You know, just the normal things people do normally, you know, having sex, eating food, drinking water, playing with your child, getting a hug from somebody you love. But these are healthy stuff. But when you take all these sugary foods, it is overemphasized, and it actually behaves like a drug. And so what happens is your biological makeup will never be changed. You know, a rubber will look like a rubber, Karen will look like Karen, but your chemicals, your biological, the chemicals that is in your body will be changed by how you eat. And this is how they affect your moods. They make you, and your moods make you crave, and then you tend to eat unhealthy food. So this becomes a malicious circle. You're always craving this food, and then you're always satisfying that crave with this food, and then you eat this particular food for a while. Maybe you're craving for a certain type of cake. When you get tired of that, then it's a certain type of chocolate. When you get tired of that, then it is something salty and fatty. And when you get tired of that, then you go to the next. So this is the easiest way of being sick and being fatigued and being overweight. Sometimes I get patients who, they say they've done blood tests. The doctor did blood tests. They spent like so much money. Let's say they spent like, you know, maybe 500 pounds or 1,000 pounds doing x-rays and blood tests and scans and what. And then after all this, there is nothing. The doctor says there is nothing. We don't find any, because they're looking for a diagnosis, but they have not gone back to diet. So most of the time, diet is actually ignored, but it is the most important part of your life, because there's nobody who goes without food. There's nobody who goes without food. We all need to eat to get sufficient energy to live us through the day. So I've talked so much, and the time is actually short. I think we need an hour. But what do we need to do to actually reduce our food, our cravings? The more you satisfy your cravings, the more you have a risk of diabetes and related risk factors, the more you have a risk of having a mental problem, because when you don't take that food that you want, you feel sad. And you feel like, if I don't take this thing, I'm going to die. That actually becomes a mental problem. So, and it is also a form of addiction, very, very dangerous in the long run, which will lead to diabetes, obesity, and related risk factors. So what you want to do is just start eating healthy. I had a patient who came to me once, and she was like, she's always tired, she's always fatigued. And yes, I've gone for medical tests. There's nothing wrong with it. What do I need to do? But obviously, now I know, after 20 years of practicing, a patient just needs to talk for 5-10 minutes, and I know what the problem is. Yes, she skips breakfast and takes a lot of sugar in coffee. You know, so she's taking coffee every few minutes to get sugar, so she gets energy to keep working. And that can go on the whole day, because they're skipping meals and not eating anything until dinner time, which is a big problem. And we are not going to go to that until we are talking about obesity. So what I told this client is, just start eating, make sure you eat a protein for breakfast, because when you eat a protein, it balances your sugar. The sugar is released for 6 to 7 hours. And so there is no craving and there is no need for sugar. And when time for lunch comes, you're eating because it's time to eat, not because you're craving. And this helps you to balance your day. So start your day with breakfast. So if I was to put all of you in a camp, I'll give you a piece of steak, I'll give you some eggs, I'll give you a piece of chicken. That's what I'll give you for breakfast. But I will deny you this for dinner. So dinner, I'll make you eat your vegetables, or vegetables and some fruit or a big salad, so that you sleep better. Because when you eat these animal proteins at night, remember it's digested for 7 to 8 hours. That means for 8 hours you're not sleeping. Then you wake up in the morning, you're tired because you didn't sleep. Then you skip breakfast, you're still tired because you don't have enough sugar. And that process goes on and on and on. But we can stop it. All you have to do, eat like a king for breakfast and a pauper for dinner. Drink water and exercise regularly. You have something on exercise coming up. So maybe I can answer a question before I give you my parting shot.
And there are a number of questions in the chat box. Let me see. I have chocolate every now and then. No, that was just before the actual. How do we close the greedy hormone? How do we close down the greedy hormone? That's one.
How do we close down the greedy hormone?
Yeah.
It's having a balanced diet. And having a balanced diet. Don't skip meals. The greedy hormone comes when you skip meals, and then you stay very long hours without food. You need to stay at least 3 to 4 hours without food, but not 8 hours without food. Because when you're staying 8 hours without food, you're likely just junking on sugar, which is a form of addiction. And it's the same as drug addiction. Yeah.
My usual breakfast is usually porridge, soya or oat milk, no added sugar, and 1 slice of brown bread with a tiny amount of soya margarine, no added sugar. How much sugar is in that? Yeah, a few questions like that.
This is very interesting. Maybe let me just show more of my slide about sugar so that you can see what I'm talking about. I'll just make it snappy. I know we are out of time. So we showed this, but what happens, your body, when you take carbohydrates, it becomes 100% sugar. So we tend to always crave for carbohydrates, your starch, your protein. But let me quickly show you what has been found is that 5 grams of carbohydrate is approximately equivalent to 1 teaspoon of sugar. So when you eat like this much, just 100 grams of rice, you almost get like 6 teaspoons of sugar. And so to answer that question, and a slice of bread is going to give you about 4 teaspoons of sugar. So you can do the math. Yeah, that is matter. You can do the math. So how much sugar did you have? It will be good to know how much porridge you had. But you had, oatmeal, oat porridge, maybe 1 cup of porridge, which is 2 ml porridge, can give you up to about 6 teaspoons of sugar. And then you had 1 slice of bread, that's 4 teaspoons of sugar. Yeah.
Small amount of porridge, only small.
Yeah, small amount. Yeah. So small amounts, 100 ml, 200 ml, it depends. It also depends on how thick the porridge is. But just know that when we take our carbohydrates, they are directly translated into sugar.
Yeah, I know that.
And so the portions matter. So I would recommend that maybe your breakfast, if you take a small portion of protein, of porridge, then you can add nuts to it, because nuts is protein.
I have fruits with it. I have it with fruits and a bit of nuts.
Okay. But you can see how much sugar is easy to take, because your fruit also will give you sugar. So you can, in the morning, you can easily take 21 teaspoons of sugar, just what we were talking about. So just watch on the carbohydrates. More vegetables in your diet, some protein in your diet. You need carbohydrates, so we can't eliminate it, but how much? And it doesn't matter whether it's brown or white. The quantities still matter. Your portions matter. Yeah.
So does intermittent fasting really work? And yes, Nafisa, I would respond to that. Yeah, you want to know about the book, I'll let you know that, but yeah.
Yes, intermittent fasting, it can work. I have worked with 2 different types of people. There are people who they want to go on a fat diet, which is what people do when they do a lot of cravings. And so they want, okay, for me to stop these cravings, let me go and do this. So they stop their life, which is all the bad things, and then they do intermittent fasting, and then they come back to their lifestyle. So they haven't changed their lifestyle, So that does not help you at all. So I only put some of my clients on intermittent fasting if they're ready to change their lifestyle. And yes, intermittent fasting works if you're going to change your lifestyle. But if you have not changed, if you don't want to change your lifestyle, you're going to crave a lot more, and you're going to consume a lot more portions of carbohydrates, and it is not going to help you at all. You can actually finish 6 weeks, 12 weeks, and you're bigger than when you started. So usually we have to go back to the table. What do you want to achieve? What is your lifestyle, and what do you want to achieve? So if you're ready to change your lifestyle, intermittent fasting works. In fact, I've been very successful with it, even helping people to stop taking alcohol and changing habits. But I study the clients, and if you're not ready, then I will not put you intermittent fasting, because it can harm you rather than help you. Yeah.
Thank you so much for such an informative session. And I think the take homes were, like you said, to breakfast like a king and eat like a pauper. And I think we've got to be really honest with ourselves in that we need to change our lifestyle. If we want to really make a difference, we have to change our lifestyles and watch those hidden carbs, because sugar comes in many, many forms. So thank you so much, and really looking forward to seeing you again. Thank you, Dr. Alice. Thank you, Rebecca.
Okay, Karen, I just wanted to say a parting shot. So genes load the gun, but your lifestyle pulls the trigger.
Oh, amen.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much.